Hang on a second.
Done about 26 podcasts in the last year, and I'm actually not in studio today. I'm in Spain on my yearly trip to Spain to recruit bilingual teachers, and yet we wanted the show to go on. And next week we have the first wave of the STAAR test. So we thought, why not combine the timing and the novelty of my not being there, and yet through the magic of technology still being able to do the podcast while talking about the STAAR test that's upcoming and how to prepare for it. We're going to spend a little bit more time than we have in past shows. We have talked about the STAAR test in past shows, but we're going to spend a little bit more time talking about what the STAAR feels like during the time at the week of STAAR at the campus, some do's and don'ts for parents, some helping parents understand about opting out options. There aren't any. And, I just gave away the end. Anyway, but we really think it's important that parents be part of our world when it comes to something as important as this. Until our legislators do something different, and I hope they will soon, and we had the advocacy podcast last week where we encouraged you parents to let your legislators know what they could do better to hear your voice in educational issues. I hope that you're doing that, and if you need more help with that, please reach out. We want your voice heard. And if you want to talk to your legislators about STAAR, this is a good legislative session for that, because some companies are saying that the STAAR test is actually 2 to 3 grade levels harder in readability at the grade level it's given. So what I mean by that is, let's say a 3rd grade STAAR could be at the 5th grade reading level. So that's tough for some of our kids, especially our kids that are second language kids. English isn't their dominant language yet. Kids who come from poverty backgrounds, kids who just have learning difficulties. So we want to make sure that you have an understanding of the STAAR test so that you can better prepare yourselves and your kids for next week for the testing grades. And again, not all grades are testing next week, but we will have grades 4, 7, 5, 8, and I believe 9 start their tests. All right, I'm going to introduce who's in the room. We have well, ladies, introduce yourselves, and let's go ahead and start our STAAR agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Good. Today I'm here with, my name is Stacy Weaver. I'm the Global Systems Director, and I'm here with
Stacy Maxwell, and I'm the Academic Systems Director, but also the District Testing Coordinator.
So Stacy, let's start with the history of STAAR. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, if we could put up that slide. Not seen it. So anyways, I came to Texas in 2003, and I remember that very well because that was the year right after the first tax test was given. And So I didn't know anything about the high stakes testing. I came from Kansas. I didn't have it. But in the state of Texas, it actually started in 1979. The law was passed to start testing with high stakes accountability testing. In 1980, the TABS test was given. And then in 1986, it turned into TEAMS. In 1990, it turned into TOS. And then finally in 2003, it went to TAX. From there, in 2012, they developed the STAAR test. Now, the STAAR test is probably, out of all of these tests, the most rigorous for our children. They have multiple step problems. They're asking very outside the box questions and asking the children to solve multi-step problems. It is also the first time that the test was timed. So now for English, they have 5 hours to complete it, but for all the other subjects, they only have 4, where in the past they had all day, all night, as long as it took them to get it done.
So that's a big change for our children, the
Yes.
rigor. And
Put a lot more pressure on them to really not only complete the work accurately, but also get it done in a timely manner.
okay, so can you tell us the types of STAAR tests that our children take?
Well, we start testing in 3rd grade. So in 3rd grade, they do reading and math. And it did change from years back, because that used to also be a Student Success Initiative grade where they wouldn't go on. But they took that away, and so now they just take the reading and math with no pressure to go on to the next grade. 4th grade, they take reading, math, and writing. 5th grade, they take reading, math, and science. 6th grade, reading and math. 7th grade, reading, math, and writing. And then in 8th grade, they take reading, math, science, and social studies. And then our high schoolers take the EOC program, which is end of course. And when STAAR first started out, there were 15 tests in end of course.
15 tests. Wow.
15 tests. And now they've reduced it down to 5. So they have to pass all 5 of these to graduate, but they have to pass English 1, English 2, Algebra 1, Biology, and U.S. History.
So it's still a lot of testing.
It is still a lot of testing, but much less than what it was before.
Okay. So basically, we say, we prepare for the test. And when we talk about that, we're not talking about preparing as in studying. There's more than just, learning for the test. So can you tell me some of the things they do on our campuses, both our Mesquite West and our Plano campuses, to prepare for testing?
So we have actually been really focused on targeting our instruction to our students' needs this year. It's been really great to see all of our people working together. But what they have been doing is they've been concentrating in Tuesday, Thursday tutoring and also in Saturday school on objectives that we see often on the STAAR test and making sure that our kids are getting them to mastery. There's no real way to teach to the test, because the test is comprised of the state standards. So if we are teaching the state standards and we're teaching them well, our kids will do well on the test. So what we're really trying to do is make sure that we're thoroughly teaching those standards and making sure that our kids are mastering them.
Absolutely. And I know as a parent and as a former testing coordinator, some of the things we always like to share with our parents is make sure your children get a good night's sleep, stress-free ride to school in the morning, good breakfast. What are some other things that you might want to add to that list for our students for the week of testing?
Well, definitely, make sure that your kids are getting to bed on time, because I know these kids, they try to stay up past their bedtime, but they really need the rest. There's really not any kind of studying that they can do for the test, so it's not like they're taking their final exam where they need to study their content, because they don't know what's coming up on the test. They can't really study for it. The best thing to do is to be relaxed, get a good night's sleep, eat a good dinner the night before, eat a good breakfast the morning of. In fact, some participating McDonald's offer free breakfast to the kids that are taking STAAR tests. So you may want to go by McDonald's, get them a nice hearty meal to start the day. And also just make sure that everything is stress-free. We're not rushing out the door. We're not, yelling at them to get their backpack or anything else. We are just getting them to school in a timely manner. Also, make sure to get those kids to school on time, because the preparation before the test is that they get a time to kind of gather themselves, and they get a time to go take a bathroom break and come back and be ready and get the last few words of encouragement from their teacher. If they're not there on time, they don't get that time to prepare. Also, if they come after the test has started, we have to pull them aside. We have to give them the instructions, and then we have to put them into a testing room. And it's just that extra time pressure of, oh, I wasn't here on time, and that kind of stress, which can really affect the kids.
And now I'll bring the administrator side out of me. I always try to remind parents that it's a best practice. Please don't make doctor's appointments. Please don't come on that day to take your child out early or bring cupcakes for a birthday or something like that. Because on testing days, we really lock it down, and we're really focused on testing, and we try not to disturb a classroom. Parents will come up and they're like, is my child done testing? We don't like to walk into classrooms and disturb a class to pull a student. So we just ask parents to be mindful on those testing days, I think, as well, is really important.
That's right. And as you did mention, we do actually lock down the campus. So basically there are no visitors on the campus during a testing week. So next week there will be no visitors on campus. And that includes our younger grades that don't test, because it is a secure test environment. We can't have any extra people around the tests or interfering with that kind of environment. So it's no lunches with your kids that week, and no coming and visiting the teachers that week, or bringing the cupcakes, or doing any of that thing. So just be mindful of that everything will be locked down.
And let's talk a little bit. There's been a lot of conversation about the readability level on the STAAR testing. I know I've spent some time in Austin, and I've heard a lot of different parents and educators and different groups talking about that. The readability level seems to be 2 to 3 times higher than what it should be. Like Dr. Good explained in the beginning, I had read an article that there's a, let me just check right here. It's Senator Jose Mendez, and he's really advocating to get rid of the STAAR test. He wants it to be completely gone. He was explaining that Texas A&M Commerce used 5 different types of readability testing to prove that it was at least 2 grade levels high, and was able to prove that. Then Mary Baylor Hardin, also they did 6 different types of testing, also showing that. You work with our students of special populations as well, our EL students, our special ed. Talk about their testing and how it affects students that haven't even reached their grade level readability level.
Right. We have a really high population of special ed 504 students and ELL students. And for their tests, we try to accommodate their needs. So sometimes they may do it online. So they may take a test online, which will come with content supports, which are basically they can hover over a word and it will give them a definition of it and things like that. It also has text-to-speech features, if that's one of their accommodations, where it's basically an oral administration. The test will be read to them. Now, it does not read like reading passages. So that's, we want to make that perfectly clear. It will read the question, the answer choices to the student, but it won't read the reading passage. So they have to be able to make it through that reading passage in order to be successful. But the online platform is a really good tool for our special needs students. We also have some special needs students that do take it on paper, and they may have an oral admin with one-on-one. So they could have one test administrator in with them to do an oral one-on-one with them and get them through the test. They also have different manipulatives that they can use, and calculators that may not be available for other kids and things like that. It all depends on what is decided in their IEP meeting or their LPAC meeting.
And you were discussing something earlier with me that I found very interesting. You were telling me about the testing window. Can you explain that?
Starting next year, for our online testers, we're going to start using a 2-week testing window. And so if our kids are testing online, they don't have to specifically take it on a certain day. So what's going to happen is they will have an opportunity within that 2 weeks where we may be able to just pull a small group in and give them the test. And so to me, it seems like it's going to take some of the pressure off the kids, because it's not going to be like, okay, everything's shut down and we're just going to do STAAR this day. It's going to be more of a flexible situation.
Very good. And so there's so many myths that surround, STAAR, and we've heard a lot of different things about STAAR, and one of them is opting out. And we hear it all the time, and in the state of Texas, there's no such thing as opting out. We hear parents say, we can opt out, and their version of opting out, they keep their child home, or they tell their child to go to school but don't take the test, or they go on vacation at that time, and a lot of ramifications that occur when a parent does something like that. Can you explain some of those things and what, as a testing coordinator, what you have to do in order to meet the state requirements when that happens?
Yeah. So there really is no opting out. And I've heard that from several different parents as we're going to opt out of the test. By state law, there is no opting out. So by the time the child completes their high school career, they have to pass the 5 EOCs in order to graduate. So let's say a parent decides they're going to opt out of English 1. Well, they keep their kid home. So that's in April. They keep their kid home in June. We're going to call them back in to take the test. If they're not there in June, we're going to call them back in December to take the test. So every time there's a retesting period, that child is required to take that test until they pass it. So the best option is to give them every possible opportunity to pass those tests. If they don't pass the 5 tests, they will not get a diploma. They'll get a certificate of completion, but not a diploma. So, we're trying to get our kids graduated and ready, college and career ready. I'm not saying the test is the best thing to do that, but they certainly can't go to college without that diploma. So we really want them to earn that diploma, and that's the only way to do it.
Okay, and our students who don't pass the STAAR, what happens? They take it during the year, and then they retake it. We know what's the process of how that works, and if they don't pass it, and they're in 8th grade or high school, and what do we do during the school year to help those students?
Okay, so we'll just take 5th and 8th grade, for example, to start. So 5th and 8th grade are what we call Student Success Initiative grades. And basically, if they don't pass the reading and the math, they do not get promoted to the next grade. They have 3 opportunities to take it before we have to go to a grade placement committee to make a decision whether or not they're promoted. So the first opportunity, they go through, and we've prepped them for the test, and this will come up next week, and they'll take their first round of math and reading. We'll get their scores back. In the meantime, what we're doing is we're telling those teachers to keep on teaching those standards and review those standards and make sure everyone's ready to take the next round. We'll get those test scores back. They'll have about 2 weeks to prep and get ready for the next test. So all those kids that have not passed that test yet, they will get strict interventions from our teachers and from our staff. Last year we did a little mini boot camp, and just those kids that need to retest went into the cafeteria. We ran stations and tried to review concepts. They get a second time to test. If they do not pass the second time, then they're assigned to summer school, which they go through interventions again in summer school. And at the end of the summer school, they test for the 3rd time. If they still do not pass that, we have to go to what's called a grade placement committee. So that would be the director, plus a special ed teacher and anyone that has interest in the child, and they have to go through and they have to see whether or not it's in the best interest of the student to go ahead or to be retained. And so this is a huge process. The more kids that we can get through the first time, the better off we are. So for EOCs, it's kind of the same process. They have to pass those 5. The first time they take it, if they don't pass it, they go into summer school. They take it at the end of summer school. If they don't pass it in summer school, then we prep them in the fall, and they have to take it again in December. So they keep on repeating these tests until they pass them. So you can start off with a student in 9th grade that takes English 1. And if they don't pass it, they're going to take it 3 times a year until they graduate. So, and if they don't pass it before they graduate, obviously they don't get a diploma.
Okay, and for our special population students, what happens with those students?
They will take it as many times as the art committee says they need to take it. If the art committee has come to a decision where this is no longer benefiting the student, then they will exempt them from that test and go ahead and get them graduated.
Okay. So talk to me about some best practices before testing begins on the campus, and whether that's with how you train teachers and what goes into that to make sure that all of our teachers are administering tests properly.
Oh, okay. So for test administration, it is a very secure environment. So I started out in October training our teachers on how to administer a STAAR test and all the different security regulations and what kind of irregularities can happen during a STAAR test. So they start out in October. They have to sign an oath of confidentiality, a security oath, before they can handle any kind of secure materials. So they actually have to go and check out the materials from the director the day of the test, the morning of the test, and they have to give the test with all the guidelines set in place, and then they have to actually return everything into the director at the end of the testing session. Everything is counted and checked like 2, 3 times, 4 times. I check it before I hand it to the directors check it before they hand it to the teachers check it before they hand it back to the directors, and then the directors check it before they hand it back to me. So it's just a secure environment. And one of the best things that we tell our teachers is they have to be actively monitoring, which means they're up, they're moving around, there's no distractions, they're not reading a newspaper, they're actually looking and seeing and making sure that the kids are doing what they're supposed to be doing and actively working on the test.
So if I as a novice would walk onto your campus on a week of testing, what would I see on the campus and in the hallways and in the classrooms?
Well, first of all, for the testing environment, a lot of our instructional materials are going to be covered up. And so that's going to be kind of a shock. You're used to seeing these bright walls and colorful and motivational posters and things like that. But during testing week, everything is covered. So if it has anything to do with English, math, science, social studies, it has to be covered. So you're going to see that. You're also going to find that there's going to be very little movement within the school. So you're not going to see a lot of kindergartners walking down the hall. You're not going to see a lot of recess going on or anything else because we have to keep everything quiet and in a testing environment. You're also going to see that you're going to have hall monitors throughout the halls to make sure that everyone is staying quiet. We have bathroom monitors to make sure there's no discussion in the bathrooms. So it's very locked down, very secure, and very quiet place.
Okay, so is there any specific things you'd like to let our audience know to be prepared for before we set into our testing week?
I think mostly is just make sure that your kids are relaxed and ready to go. And be encouraging and give them, just tell them you can do it, and just go in there and do your best and don't get too stressed out, because a lot of the kids go in and they start having some serious test anxiety, and we don't need that. We just need them to relax, do their best on the test, and put forth their best effort.
Well, I think you've shared some great information, and I hope this one puts our parents at ease as well as our students, and that they'll share that information with their children. Everything we spoke about today, we're going to go ahead and put up on our Facebook after the show later this afternoon, early evening. So we'll put some links up about the STAAR testing, and we'll put up the article by Senator Mendez, and all those information and links so parents can see those. Our testing dates, we'll go ahead and post those as well, and a little bit of the history of the STAAR, we'll put that up for parents as well. And we're going to go ahead and go back to Dr. Good, and she's going to go ahead and close out the show. So thank you, Stacy, for helping me out today and joining me in Dr. Good's absence.
Now you know everything you need to know about the STAAR test that's happening next week. We appreciate you staying tuned and listening. And again, due to the magic of technology, I'm able to come to you from Spain and still complete the podcast. Thank you to Stacy Maxwell and Stacy Weaver for stepping in for me and making sure that we kept our promise of our weekly podcast. And if you have any more questions about the STAAR test, please make sure that you get with Stacy Maxwell, who is our district testing coordinator, so that she can answer your questions for you. Thank you, and have a great rest of the day.
Legacy Preparatory Charter Schools, visit our website, legacypca.com, or call 469-249-1099. And remember to like us on Facebook, where we stream live weekly Tuesdays at 3 p.m.